Richard Johnson, veteran of 22 Cheltenham Festival winners. You've won it all. Gold Cup, Champion Hurdle, Stayers Hurdle. Just what does Cheltenham mean to you?
Oh God, I think it's where everybody wants to be. Even as a child growing up, I remember, Cheltenham was always the place everybody talked about. Do you mean? I know my parents even, having a runner in the Hunter Chase there was a huge thing. Not even at the festival, just at the racecourse. So, the festival itself. When I used to work for David Nicholson when I started, that was always the big week of the year. So to get a chance to ride there initially was huge, and then obviously sort of as time went on to win races there was a dream, to be honest.
You mentioned the Duke. Was his first big one, or your first big one was for him at Anson?
Yeah, I think it shocked the nation, really, probably. Every person in racing couldn't believe he won. I couldn't believe he won from the top of the hill because we were obviously, a long way back. But again, he stayed on really strongly and won. And again, that was a big point in my career, really. That obviously pushed me into, riding probably better horses and, sort of gave me a real career boost. So, yeah, huge memory for me. It was his last festival winner he trained in. It was my first one, so it was quite nice. Well, it started my career sort of and probably the twilight of his.
And obviously, also I know it means a lot to you. He's here with you. Looks like trouble. Your first Gold Cup winner.
Yeah. Again, I was very lucky to pick up the ride. Only a couple of weeks before the race, so it was. Probably in a way it was quite nice because I didn't have to sort of have that that sort of big build up. It was almost a bit of a shock to get the ride. And then it all happened so quickly. I don't think I really appreciated, what it meant. The whole thing. It was just a bit of a whirlwind, really. And I definitely didn't appreciate how hard it was to get a ride in the race or to win it. So, like I say, it took me 18 years to do it again. So, but again, it looks like trouble. He lives here with us now. He's 32. He's been a saint. The kids love him. Obviously, no one rides him anymore. He's having a well-earned rest. But he's just a fantastic horse to have around. And obviously now, no chance, my father-in-law as well. So it's definitely kept it in the family.
Well, that's the thing with horse racing, is it? I mean, the story's written everywhere. And you say you picked up the ride 2 weeks before, and now I saw your quote with what he's given you. A ride 2 weeks before, you've got a family out of it, and you say a family pet, and he's still here. Yeah,
it's cost me a fortune, really. But no, again, obviously married Fiona. Obviously, good few years after that. But he's been a lovely horse to be involved with. He's very, very talented, and unfortunately because of injury, like a lot of horses, I don't think we really saw, what he, I'm sure his career would have been bigger and better if his body could have, not been so injured so many times. But again, he's got a fantastic life here, and that's the retirement I thought I wanted, but it hasn't quite worked for me.
And then your second one, Native River, which was one of the brilliant Gold Cups of recent years. I mean, you and Nico and Mike by going hammer and tong throughout. Yeah,
it was one of those. Again, obviously, Native River was a horse that. Do you mean? I think we sort of suited each other. I started riding him, in his novice chase sort of season. Won at Aintree, and then carried on, winning a Hennessy and a Welsh National, and he was an amazing horse, really tough. And the year he won the Gold Cup, it was. He ran in at Newby, a few weeks before, bolted up, and everything just went to like clockwork. It was. There's always things that happen that you think, oh, I wish that didn't happen, or I wish that had gone better. But with him that day, it was just almost a perfect race. He jumped amazing. He travelled. Everything I asked, he gave and more. So it was one of those days that probably one of the highlights of my career. And because I was getting a bit older, I realised that I need to appreciate it, take it all in. So again, from 18 years before, when Looks Like Trouble won, I thought it would come around every 2 or 3 years, where I think it was only my 7th ride in the Gold Cup. So just to get a ride in the races, isn't easy. So when you do and when you win it, you need to enjoy it.
And you mentioned the pace that you went. I mean, there's no hiding place to say in a Gold Cup, but you're going almost 2 mile speed, aren't you? And then that race proved it. Nothing was ever getting into it from behind.
Yeah, I think the great thing about Native River was his jumping was unbelievable. When you ride lots of horses, lots of really good jumpers, but there's not very many horses that can jump at that speed accurately. Throughout the whole race. A lot of horses are very good for some fences, and then they get one wrong, and then or when the pace, quickens up, they just find it hard. Where he just literally, that rhythm he had was unbelievable. And I didn't think I'd gone very quick the first circuit. He felt like he was really in his comfort zone, and I felt when I went past the winning post, I need to now start to just slowly build up the pace. And it's only when you watch the replay that you realise that a lot of the horses were nearly in top gear, on the first circuit, let alone the second circuit. And then when we went down the back straight, definitely when we jumped the water, I think, from then onwards, you just saw the horses behind us starting to drop away. And Mike Bite was the one horse that, he travelled very strongly, jumped really well as well. And yeah, from I'd say from 4 out, it was really the two of us.
Everyone loves a grey. I love a grey. I love Rooster Booster. What a star he was.
Yeah, no, he's a legend. And I think for me and Philip Hobbs, again, I started riding for Philip sort of in 2000, that sort of time, and he was a horse that came along very soon. He was very frustrating for the first probably 18 months, 2 years, that he kept finishing second in every single big handicap in Ireland and England, and then he won the county hurdle and won it well, and it was almost like he realised how to get his head in front. And it wasn't that he wasn't trying before, but I don't know, something clicked, and he really, the next 12 months was unbelievable. He literally, whatever you did with him, it seemed to work. And the year he won the champion hurdle, they went flat out, and it literally was, I wouldn't think they go much quicker in a 5 furlong race, but it was perfect for him because he was very keen and he was very enthusiastic. But that day he settled really well, he jumped really well. Again, it's like everything went just as you want, and you need a bit of luck in, I think, every race, but especially those big races. You need everything just to fall your right way, and for me that year, the pace, everything just suited well. And the way he jumped the last and kept going up the hill was incredible. Especially in a champion hurdle, in a 0 to 120 handicap on a Thursday maybe, but not in a champion hurdle.
You mentioned obviously everything going right. Let's look at this year's action then. Champion hurdle. Not everything sadly has gone right for the reigning champion, Constitution. How much of a miss is he going to be for the crowd more than anything?
Huge, I think, and it's all, we all love good horses, and I think we all love, as much as you don't want to see a 2-to-1 on shot, at the same time, I think when there's a horse like Constitution Hill, he really is a very, very good horse. So I think you people get attached to him, and especially in jump racing, you get people that will follow a horse for 4, 5, 6 years. So I think we'll be all disappointed not to see him. And I'm sure if he was there 100%, for me he was the best horse and he would have won. But he's not, and injuries do happen. So it makes it a lot more open contest. But obviously, State Man, he looks like the obvious one, and I think he's again, he wasn't as good as Constitution Hill in my opinion, but he's a cut above the rest. But because of that, I think because Constitution Hill's not there, then it does open the door up to, obviously William Mullins has got Lottie Mouth, which is very short price favourite for the mares race, but whether they get tempted to run her in the champion. And actually I think there's if whichever way they go, you can understand their decision. And so I think that's an option. I think Gordon Elliott's got a couple in there as well that you suddenly think, oh well, actually we might run, because you shouldn't stay away from one. And if State Man doesn't turn up in his prime, then all of a sudden it looks a really open race. So State Man is the obvious favourite, and if he's right, he'll win. But I think because Constitution Hill's not there, you might actually have a bigger field and a more competitive race.
Let's look at the Champion Chase. You've won this before. I mean, is this one of the highlights of the year? You don't go quicker anywhere than over 2 miles and over these fences.
Yeah, Champion Chase is a real, quite a unique race in the fact that you need almost a 2.5 miler. They go very hard all the way, and like a lot of the races at Cheltenham, it's not, you start off nice and steadily and you build up through the race and then you go fast at the end. It's basically flat out from the word go. El Fabiolo, he for me he's the best horse. He's got the best form. He should win. But again, we say about all these horses that should win, I guarantee one of the two of them won't win, because again they're animals. But I think Edwardstone is the horse for me. They changed the tactics completely, obviously, at Newbury the last day, and I thought he was really good. He jumps really, really well. He's definitely a horse that stays very strongly. I think he could be a real player, and I really, really fancied him last year, and he slightly disappointed. But I think the change in tactics might be a really good move. Again, for me, he's the one horse I would be really confident of being in the first three. John Bourne is obviously the other British horse that is very talented. Obviously, he's got to get over his poor run the last day, his mistakes, but he is the talented one. And again, I think those two horses stay very strongly, and a really fast run race will play to their strengths. And again, El Fabiolo, he's still gonna need to be at his best to win. It's not a given for me that he's gonna bolt up. I think there's a couple of especially the British horses that will give him everything to do.
I mean, you've got two horses similar price, Statement and El Fabiolo. One's probably a little bit more solid than the other. You're taking, that's been asked to take a short price.
I'd take State Man over El Fabiolo, just because I think State Man, he's literally so solid. I just think it's very hard to pick holes in him, where El Fabiolo, I just think there is reasons that some of the British horses could still be on the up. It looks a slightly more open race than the Champion Hurdle at the moment. It's State Man's to lose, I think.
Stayers Hurdle is wide open. It's the most wide open of the championship contests, and again, the Irish seem to have a very strong hand, unfortunately.
I think they're very strong everywhere. I think Willie Mullins is very strong everywhere. I think it's Willie versus everybody else. Everyone's got about England, Ireland. I think it's, even when you look down the entries, like Willie just seems to have, you just get to another one, you're thinking, I can't believe he's got another entry in this race, let alone, where they are in the betting. But the Stayers, Tiapu was the horse that, when he bolted up at just before Christmas, and Gordon Elliott said, look, we're not going to go until Cheltenham. We think he's well fresh. He ran really well last year. I don't think he's got much to improve to win. So I think for me, he's the one horse. If I could, I'd ride. Tiapu would be the one I'd want to ride. But actually, Monkfish could be he's the horse that, he's obviously very talented. If he can get there in one piece and healthy and everything else, he's probably one of the most talented horses we saw as a novice chaser in the last few years. But obviously, injury has got in the way. But he was good the last day, and I think the Stayers Hurdle is open. It's not. There's no 180 rated horse, 170 rated horse. They're all in the 160s, and if you fancy one at a big price, I think it's a real race that the each way market is going to be huge. Gold
Cup, you've won it twice. You know exactly what it takes to do it. Galloping Des Champs has only won it once. Can he equal you and get a second?
It's probably, again, it's his to lose, I suppose. I was not a non-believer. I wasn't sure he'd stay last year. I thought he travelled really well the year before in the novice chase, and I thought, well, is he really a 3 mile 2, Gold Cup horse? Which again, it's all about that last half a mile in the Gold Cup, and if you don't stay, you're not going to win. But he proved me wrong. He did it well, and he looks in very good form after his Leopardstown win this year. So he's the obvious one. Again, you'd be a fool if you didn't want to ride him over anything else in the race. But I think Le Homprez of Venetia Williams' horse, a lot of people were knocking him after he got beat at Ascot the other day. I would have thought Charlie Deutsch and Venetia and the owner, if they'd have gone out really hard at Ascot, they might have won. They might have put the winner under pressure and everything else. But the Gold Cup was obviously their main target. And if you give a horse a really, really hard race 3 weeks before, the Gold Cup, it's not going to be the perfect prep for him. And I'm sure they wanted to win at Ascot. But again, the trip at Cheltenham will be much better for him. I think he's a real stayer. I just think he's the horse that we don't know how good he is. He still could be better than what we've seen. So yeah, for me, he's the horse I think might give Galloping as much to do as anything else. But he's still got to improve. But I do think he's a very, very strong each way chance.
Any of the novices that have caught your eye this season, either side of the Irish Sea?
I think mainly in the novice hurdle division, and it's very, it's nothing very exciting about it. I think Ballyburn he just looks like a Gold Cup horse winning a 2-mile hurdle. Which like he's a real big. He looks a really big type. I really want to go and see him in the paddock actually on Tuesday Tuesday or Wednesday, whichever day he runs. He doesn't look a quick horse, but he makes other horses look very slow. He just seems to find it effortless. So I think he's one to. Well, I'll be amazed if he gets beat. And he's one I think that going forward he's one to follow. And so Gino, I don't think anybody couldn't be, taken with his performance at Cheltenham the last day. We'll find out on Friday whether he's as good as that looked. If he is, he really looks like he might be a champion hurdle horse in the future, because he looked like he had speed, class. He jumps. He ticks all the boxes. So they're the 2 novice hurdlers that I really liked. I thought the novice chase division is actually quite open, and I think. Yeah, we'll all probably be a lot wiser after next week going forward. But I think the novice hurdle division this year looks quite strong.
There's so many short prices, championship races and novice races, so punters like me will be getting stuck into the handicaps. I mean, obviously you've been on the preview circuit a little bit. Anything that's really you've heard or stood out or that you caught your eye that you fancy one of the handicaps?
I think it's really difficult. At the moment, I must admit, you hear different horses, but I think until you sort of know what's going to run where. And I think yard form is going to be a huge thing. I think the English handicapper the last couple of years has seemed to be more realistic. When a novice wins, 2 nice novices, or it's run 3 or 4 times, it's won a couple. They actually seem to give them a realistic mark rather than get rating them 140 and they have to run in the Supreme or the Brown Advisory Novice Chase or whatever it is. They can run in a handicap, and I think obviously State Man ran one of the county hurdles. You often, for me, it's worth trying to spot the novices in the handicaps and have a trainer that's informed. I think Henry de Bromhead, he's a man that always horses seem to come right at the right time. Again, so I think there's quite a lot of horses that it'll be interesting through the week to see what the ground's like, see what the conditions are like. There's obviously going to be better ground horses. They haven't raced at Cheltenham since January, and because you've got 2 courses, it will be in better condition than anywhere else probably in the country, because like we've just said, the weather's been horrendous for the last few months. So actually there could be some horses that haven't had conditions to suit. It's not going to be good ground at Cheltenham, but it might be better than they've had. So it's definitely all those things. It's going to be a puzzle, but there's lots of things I think that you can back horses probably at big prices that can run well.
I know you've just talked about a couple of the British runners there. I know we're trying to stay patriotic, but it's really hard, isn't it? I mean, the Irish domination. I know people say it comes in flows and waves and it'll turn around again, but they are so strong. And you mentioned as you look through the entries, it's time after time. If you say Willie Mullins has got most of them, but if it's not him, it's Gordon or Henry de Bromhead. Yeah,
they are. We look at the cross-country race. Henry de Bromhead's got the former Gold Cup winner in it, and you're thinking, well, Jimmy, how it's just unbelievable the strength and depth. When they can run a Gold Cup winner in a cross-country race. That's not knocking a cross-country race, but most trainers, if they had that in a yard, you'd be thinking, oh well, he might still run well in a Gold Cup where they've gone down that route, and I think he'll obviously run very well in the cross-country race, but. Their strength and depth is incredible at the moment, and we've just got to keep working hard, I think, to try and find better horses. At the moment, they seem to be sourcing the best horses, and also I think the owners at the moment they are financially very, very strong in the markets. They're all, if you go to any of the horse sales, anybody can buy the horses, but at the moment the Irish trainers do seem to have a lot of the buying power to buy the expensive, prospects that hopefully people are hoping that will, be Cheltenham horses one day.
I'm hypothetically speaking here, but the phone's going to ring. You still look in great shape. The boots are going to come off the peg because you desperately needed to ride one horse at this year's festival. Which one would you come out of retirement to ride this year? Gosh, I mean, obviously there's so many sort of very short prices. Obviously, the Gold Cup for me is the best race of the year. Galloping de Champs is the one you'd have to ride.
But I suppose looking elsewhere on other, I think the British horses, I think Sergino is the one, especially like long term. You know, he could be a real star. So yeah, the Gold Cup is the most important race. So Galopin Des Champs, but if I'm picking a British one, it would be Sergino. I think he just looks like a, you know, the perfect racehorse.
And finally, I'd say 22 winners, you've won everything. What would be your most favourite Cheltenham Festival memory? And I know it's going to be quite difficult because I'm sure there's lots.
Well, if my wife's outside that door, I'd be very careful. I think the Gold Cup is, for me, it is the most important race, and it's the race that everybody wants to win. It's the best of the best. I think whenever, you know, an owner, if you said, "Oh, we've got a Gold Cup horse," I mean, literally every owner is going to be over the moon. Obviously, over the moon to have any good horse. But so for me, Looks Like Trouble and Native River, it's very hard to split them. But obviously, Looks Like Trouble lives us at home with us now, and he's probably one of those horses that really pushed my career into the next level. Yeah, when you ride winners at Cheltenham, everybody notices. It doesn't matter, you know, what part of the country or what country they live in. You know, everyone that sees, you know, when you ride winners at Cheltenham. So for me, Looks Like Trouble was that horse that really pushed me into that next level.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Richard.
Pleasure.